Hello everyone. In this video we're going to talk about comparisons between many things and comparisons in general. First rule that you have to remember is that a similar class must always be compared to another similar class. So we always compare animals to animals and we always compare trains to trains. That may sound insignificant, but you have to remember that the same things must always be compared. You heard the saying before, don't compare apples to oranges. Well, you can't compare animals to trains. Similar class with similar class. People to people and things to things. First rule is you have to always identify the two things that are being compared. Underline it, mark it, make a little star next to it, but somehow identify the two things that are being compared in the sentence. So let's look at two examples here. One example, but one is correct and the other is not. Steve's painting was better done than Jimmy. What's being compared here? Steve's painting and Jimmy. Because better done than, right? So then, the word than, indicates that a comparison is taking place. And the comparison is between Steve's painting and Jimmy. Can we compare a painting to a person? Can we say his painting was better than Jimmy? No, typically 99% of the time, you're not going to be allowed to do that. So how do we change to make it correct? We say Steve's painting was better done than that of Jimmy. Instead of saying Steve's painting was better than Jimmy, we say his painting was better done than that of Jimmy. So we know that the painting is being compared to another painting, and we're allowed to do that. Can we say Steve's painting was better done than that of Jimmy's? That sounds right, doesn't it? Is it right? It's not right. Steve's painting, and we cannot say that of Jimmy's, because when we say that of Jimmy's, we're saying that of Jimmy's painting. You understand the distinction? The distinction is very important. We say Steve's painting, it's one thing. The other thing, in this sentence at least, is that of Jimmy's, which means that of Jimmy's painting. Not the painting itself, but that which belongs to the painting. So we do not have the same thing being compared to another thing. These are two different things. What about Steve's painting was better done than Jimmy's? Does that sound right? It sounds right, but is it right? It's not right, because the sentence is incomplete. You cannot say Steve's painting was better done than Jimmy's. Now, we want to say Jimmy's painting, and that would be correct, but the word painting is not there. So as it is right now, that sentence is not correct. Can we say Steve's painting was better done than Jimmy's painting? Yes, of course we can, because we're comparing the same thing. We're comparing Steve's painting, it's right there, it's literally in the sentence, and Jimmy's painting. They're there. There's nothing magical, like they're obvious. Let's look at a few more examples. And again, the rule that we have to keep in mind here is that we always have to compare the same classes. People to people, things to things, animals to animals, train tracks to train tracks. You can never compare apples and oranges, right? Always the same class. Nick's cards were better known than Bob. Does that make sense? We know it's a comparison, right? Because again, we see the word then, which indicates that two things are being compared. But are we allowed to compare cards to a person? No, we're not. So that sentence is incorrect. Now, these examples are going to be in plural, whereas the ones before we were talking about painting, and these ones we're going to talk about cards. So these are going to be the plural version, but the same idea still applies. Always compare similar things. Nick's cards were better known than those of Bob. Those, obviously, because it's cards, and the thing that we're comparing is Nick's cards, and we're saying those of Bob. This sentence is correct. Nick's cards were better than those of Bob, because we're comparing Nick's cards to Bob's cards. Even though Bob's cards is not explicitly stated in the sentence, we know that that's what's meant, because it says those of Bob. Nick's cards were better known than those of Bob's. Is that correct? No, that sentence is not correct. We know it's a comparison because of the word then, and we know that Nick's cards is being compared to, or it's supposed to be compared to, Bob's cards, but that's not what this sentence says. And this entire lesson is a very important point, which is that when reading the questions, always read them carefully. Never add to the question. Slow down. Read it word by word if you have to. Because what are we saying here? We're saying those of Bob's, okay? Those of Bob's cards. So his cards were better than those of Bob's cards. So we're saying in this sentence that the cards that Bob had their own cards. And we're not comparing those things. That sentence is unnecessarily complicated. Therefore, it's incorrect. These are some important word pairs that I'll cover in the next video. See ya.